This is the DJI RS4 Mini, and this is someone who has never used the gimbal before.
And in this video, I'll be sharing my full experience learning how to use it because I've got a big shoot coming up.
I've always loved cars and dreamed of capturing them with smooth cinematic movement. But honestly, I never felt ready. I used to avoid gimbals, felt like they were bulky, fiddly, and just not worth the hassle. Then the DJI RS4 Mini dropped, and I bought it. And it sat on the floor of my space for weeks. Until the Mustang shoot came up and suddenly the clock started ticking. So now I've just got a few weeks to figure it out, practice and be ready for the shoot. Let's see if a complete beginner can actually get smooth cinematic gimbal shots with the DJI RS4 Mini. Now the first thing I have to do is take it out of the box. Now I know I'm late to the party with the DJI RS4 Mini, but I'll explain while I get it set up. When I say I'm a complete beginner, I mean it. The DJI RS4 Mini dropped in February 2025 and mine just sat on the floor of my space for over a month before I could even open it. Let's just say a few Jev and Dovey videos were very necessary, especially when it came to balancing the gimbal. Now that part wasn't too bad and I wanted to test it with my heavier setup, the Sony a6700 paired with the Sigma 24-70 and an ND filter of course. I was also happy to see that the handle has a cold shoe mount which was perfect for attaching my Portkeys external monitor. But this setup was heavy and now I understand why so many creators mention back pain after long gimbal sessions. I definitely felt that during my first practice run. Now once it was balanced, a few more tutorials, shout out to Jevon again.
When I do this, I'm at 1. It looks like it's just slightly, it's still pulling forward.
Helped me to navigate the RS4 Mini's menu and features. For example, if you set your C1 button on your camera, for instance I set mine to peaking, you can actually trigger this through the gimbal by pressing the M button, which is super handy. But if you want to control things like aperture, shutter or ISO through the gimbal, you need to connect the camera with a cable. Now that I had everything set up, it was finally time to go outside and start playing with it. For my first real test, I just went for a walk with my friend Nicolas around the Limassol Castle and nearby market area. Now this wasn't exactly the most productive session because I honestly had no idea what I was doing. But it did give me a chance to get used to the weight of the gimbal and just mess around with the FPV 360 spin mode. Let's just say none of this footage was usable. I didn't have a shot list, no real plan, I was just winging it. That said, I did get to try out the tracking module and that part was actually really impressive. Even crossing the road or going behind obstacles, it still managed to keep me in frame. Funny enough, when I posted one of these clips as a short or reel, it randomly got a ton of views. No idea why, but I'll take it. At the end of the day, I still didn't feel ready to shoot this Mustang. What I did realize was that I needed a plan before my next practice session. Now, my first attempt wasn't great, but I needed inspiration for the Mustang shoot. There are some seriously dope edits out there. I knew I wasn't going to pull off anything that flashy, my editing skills aren't quite there yet. But I could practice some basic speed ramping and focus on getting smooth shots. One of my favourite creators for this is Jamie Fenn. He shares awesome breakdowns on filming techniques and speed ramping and it's definitely worth checking out. So I needed some test footage. I grabbed my Norco ND2 and headed to the local park. And some of you might recognise it. It's the same spot where I filmed my DJI Mini 2 mapping video. I set my bike up in the middle and just started practicing the basics. Push-ins, orbits, rise ups, rise downs, pullbacks. I even gave some FPV style moves a go. Now one thing I kept hearing from YouTubers was do the ninja walk or use the heel toe method. Yes, it can kill your back after a while, but I had to try it. And after reviewing the footage and attempting a basic edit, I noticed something. My push-in shots weren't smooth and stabilizing them post created a weird wobble and warping effect. It turns out that I made the rookie mistake and I forgot to lock the gimbal axis by holding the trigger. Now I know for next time. The orbit shot was also rough. I wasn't sure if it was my movement, the settings, Or maybe my pacing. Do I have to be faster or do I have to be slower? Do I have to look at the subject or do I have to look at the camera? Weirdly enough, the FPV shots turned out better, plus subtle body movements seemed to help a lot. My main takeaway was that I was learning and I was getting better.
3, 2, 1.
Now at this point, I definitely wasn't ready to shoot the Mustang, so I called my friend Savas, who has the RS4 Mini, and said let's hang out and shoot and we can practice together. And while trying to plan the Mustang shoot, we kept running into issues. Either our schedules didn't align or the weather ruined the day. But this did give me some more time to practice. So I figured worst case I could use this footage as backup. Sure, it's not a Mustang, but it would still give me a chance to work on getting clean cinematic shots.
Oh, I'm in the shot, which I don't like.
Now it was a beautiful sunny day, which sounds great, but when you're filming shiny cars, it creates some challenges. For starters, I didn't use a CPL filter to cut down on reflections. The reflections were rough and I even saw myself in the car paint, which totally ruined the aesthetic for me. I also wish DJI's tracking module worked on cars. It's available on the Osmo Pocket 3 and mobile gimbals, so it's kind of strange it's not here. Hopefully they release a firmware update to allow car tracking or let us manually select subjects through the Ronin app. After some trial and error, we ditched the car and just headed into Buffos Harbour to shoot some gimbal moves in a different setting. Honestly, the footage wasn't my favourite, but I reminded myself that this is all about learning and improving.
La 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 la. Yo, what's the deal?
Plus, now I know I need to use a CPL filter when filming cars. Also, Savas was super impressed with the tracking module, even if it didn't lock onto cars yet. Now by this point, I was feeling really overwhelmed. Using a gimbal wasn't going the way I hoped, and honestly, I was just discouraged. Why wasn't I getting the results? Was it me? Was it the settings? The technique? I even started thinking maybe gimbals just aren't for me. And this is why I prefer drones and FPV. You can get smooth dynamic shots without all the fuss. Then one day my friend Ioannis reached out and invited me to go shoot a model at a hotel in Limassol. And I said sure. I didn't really know what I was going to do, but I figured I'd bring the gimbal and just treat it as practice. There's no pressure. At the end of the day, that's all this was, more practice. This time I had a beautiful subject to work with and I reminded myself not every gimbal move has to be flashy. Smooth, simple movements can be just as powerful. And since we were shooting indoors, ditched the ND filter and we were working in tighter spaces, so I switched to the Sigma 10-18 for the extra width. And the lighter setup definitely helped. I finally felt more confident. I focused on slow, controlled movements and using my body rather than taking big steps, and framed the shots using the elements in the room. But shooting is one thing and editing is another. And when scrubbing through the footage to create a short reel took some time. I hit a creative block just trying to find the right music to match the vibe. But after a few hours, it all came together. And for the first time, I looked at the footage and thought, this actually looks smooth, and I was happy and confidence was restored.
Dans mon cœur, l'amour sans logique à la raison.
After finally getting some decent gimbal shots, I reached out to the owner of the Mustang to lock in a shoot date. But with Easter around the corner, she was heading off on holiday. And at this point, I just wanted the video done. It felt like it was just dragging on. But maybe this was a good thing. No need to rush it. So I took the extra time to practice. I went back to the park, this time with the basketball and my turbo backpack as stand-ins. I tried the push-in shot again, but this time I remembered to lock the gimbal. The results were better, but not perfect. But definitely an improvement. Everything I learned so far was starting to show in my footage. and switching to the Sigma 10-18 made a big difference compared to the heavier 24-70. And I realized you don't always need big sweeping movements. Just use your body to sway gently back and forth, and that can be enough to get smooth shots. Filming at higher frame rates like 60 or 120 FPS and slowing this down in post using DaVinci Resolve Stabilizer really helped clean things up. But if I wanted to pull off a proper car edit, I knew I needed to master one thing: a smooth, wide orbit shot. That's when I started diving deeper into refining my gimbal settings. If you made it this far, chances are you're really enjoying the video, and if you are, I'd really appreciate a like. It helps push the video out to more people, and it lets me know you enjoy content like this. Why not let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below too? And if you want to join a community of like-minded people who love drones, photography and everything in between, hit that subscribe button. The next evening, I wanted to test whether the Sony a6700's in-body stabilization would help when paired with the gimbal. So I ran some simple tests. The same movement with 3 variations: no stabilization, standard stabilization, and active stabilization. Now most gimbal users say turn it off, and after testing I do agree. Disabling stabilization gave me the best results overall. That said, if you're doing a straight up walking shot, active stabilization actually did a great job and reducing that natural up and down bobbing. But most of the time you're not just walking in a straight line, so I'll be keeping it off for most of my shots. While I was testing, I noticed something else. My gimbal settings were still set to responsive mode, not smooth, and my gimbal's reaction speed was set to medium instead of slow. That's when I had the light bulb moment. This was probably why my earlier shots didn't feel as smooth as I wanted. Turns out I had changed these settings when playing around with the tracking module just to see how fast it could follow me, and forgot to switch them back. This quick session ended up being one of the most valuable. It proves that sometimes it's not the gear, it's the settings. So if you're not getting the smooth results you want, go out, experiment, and just play with your gimbal. After a string of bad weather days and Easter finally passing, I had a confirmed shoot date for my Mustang session. Throughout all my practice, I'd also been location scouting and planning, and one of the spots I had in mind was the Limassol Marina car park. It's definitely the right call. Wide open space, no one around, and top level was completely empty. Perfect for clean, controlled shots. So I put everything I'd learned to the test. We were lucky to get an overcast day too, which gave me a nice even lighting. And I remembered this time to bring my CPL. And I was using Freewell's V2 system and stuck with the Sigma 10-18 for that wider, lighter setup. I had a basic shot list ready: push-ins, pullbacks, orbits, close-ups of the wheels, lights, and other details. Since I'd been having better luck with FPV mode, I made sure to grab some of these shots too. Basically, I shot as much as I could. Another tip I picked up from creators is always start your shot 2 to 3 steps before the action movement. That gives you breathing room in the edit. You can always trim the fat, but you can't create footage that isn't there. Now once I had the gimbal shots locked in, I snapped some photos too. I mean, why not? It's great for the portfolio and something nice I could give to the Mustang owner. Later that evening, I reviewed the footage and added stabilization in DaVinci Resolve, but something fell off. The shots weren't as smooth as I expected. That's when it hit me. I completely forgot to reset my gimbal settings back to smooth and slow. Classic. Still, the footage was usable and I had a couple more shoot days lined up to build the final edit. Now, I've always wanted to shoot rollers and this was finally the right opportunity. I had a sick car. The only issue, I needed a second person, someone to drive while I filmed. Plus, we had to find a stretch of road with 2 easy turning points for clean runbacks. Originally, I thought about using the highway, but at sunset, this would have been rush hour and this would have been a disaster with traffic. Higher speeds would have helped with the motion, but without a proper rig, it wasn't safe from shooting from the trunk. And again, traffic. After sending out a few messages, my friend Stavros came through. He agreed to help drive, and in return I offered to drive for him too so he can grab his own shots. Once we had everyone's schedules aligned and the location sorted, it was finally time to shoot. We arrived about half an hour early to prep the car and mount the BTS cameras, because let's be honest, you always need BTS. And let's just say, this shoot was a lot of fun. I was probably too excited, and the only issue is the trunk lid kept on closing, so I had to hold the gimbal with one hand and the trunk with the other. So it wasn't ideal and it cost me a few shots, but we made it work and we got multiple runs in. Of course I grabbed some photos too, because rollers always look great in stills. Now the only downside was that I didn't have my video settings fully dialed in. I was shooting in S-Log 3, but I forgot to expose properly at plus 1.3. So a lot of the footage ended up underexposed, which added some noise when I lifted in DaVinci Resolve. Just one more hurdle to deal with in the edit. But honestly, all of this, every problem, every test, fix, it's just XP. All part of the learning curve. Now look, it wouldn't be a drone focused channel if I didn't include some FPV. These shots weren't about the RS4 Mini anymore. I just wanted to add some dynamic FPV clips as part of the final edit, so here's a few of the FPV shots we captured. Found a great location nearby at Yermasoya Dam. The winding road there gave us a long stretch with some elevation changes, which helped maintain a solid signal strength with the Avata 2. Now I was finally ready to start editing. Or so I thought. After all the effort I put into setting up the gimbal, learning how to use it, running all these practice sessions, I suddenly had a mountain of footage to go through. And if you know me, I get overwhelmed quite easily, which usually leads to procrastination. But I was determined to finish this video. It had been hanging over me for too long, so I buckled down. I started by finding a suitable song on Artlist and picked out a few transition effects I liked. Then I scrubbed through each session, pulling out the best clips. I stabilized everything, and one of the best tricks I picked up came from JB Fenn using the planar tracker in the Fusion tab in DaVinci Resolve. That technique really helped keep the orbit shots locked in and stable. As for the underexposed rollers footage, I managed to clean it up with a combination of denoising and Sony's conversion LUT and some basic color adjustments. Once the visuals felt dialed in, I started layering sound design, some effects from Artlist, and a few samples I pulled from YouTube clips. And after all of that, here is the final result. I just want to say thank you so much for watching, and if you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by dropping a car emoji down below, and also let me know your thoughts. And if you want to see some more action-packed car content, then check out the Cyprus Rally video here, and if you want to find out about FPV flow state, then check out this video here. I'll see you in the next one.